Hello, I am Brian, and I am the Theoretical Gamer. Now, you're starting a campaign. Everyone makes up their character, everyone sits down to play, and one guy shows up, and he's like, right here. Thump! What's that? This is my character backstory, Volume 1. It starts with the months before his conception and ends about the time that he was toilet trained. Now, volumes 2 through 15 are over there, and I've got a couple more in the car that I need to go and get. I trust you'll read these before the campaign actually starts. Right. An extreme example, but some people will come up with the great novel series about their wonderful character, and they'll be mad if you don't read it. And you know what's going to happen. The GM will just oh, so that's your backstory, huh? Yep. You want me to read it and then incorporate every aspect of it into the game. Yeah. Okay. You all meet in a tavern. The old man comes up to you and offers you an adventure. What? You know my character doesn't drink and disapproves of taverns? It's in volume 14. And that he has a phobia of old men. Okay, so don't play. Okay, so he tells you of a cave. What? Basically, you could blame it on over-enthusiasm. The guy is just so into the idea of playing a character that he wants to throw himself into it. He's also probably a frustrated novelist. But basically, no, don't do it. Basically, I think it kind of shows a lack of faith in the game. You don't think that anything really cool or interesting is going to happen to you in the game, so you make sure that it's all already happened to you, right? But Gary Gygax was famous for saying a cool line, which I thought. He said, character background is levels 1 through 6. If you're running a first level character in D&D or a similar game, then your backstory can be something like, I'm a fighter, or I'm a cleric, or a thief. You might have a few lines, say where you're from, or, that sort of thing, whether you're from a city or from the country, blah, blah, blah. But for the most part, the early levels, if you survive them, are where you're supposed to get your story. That's where you make enemies. That's where you make allies. That's where you get the list of towns that you burn down. Stuff like that. Some games are different. Sometimes if you're running, say, a World of Darkness game, by White Wolf, then you kind of do need a little more background than I'm a fighter. But for the most part, if you do background overload, you're gonna, first of all, no one's gonna read it. Secondly, it's gonna be like this. It's gonna be like what I called in an earlier video, the story munchkin, the guy who is desperately trying to get the attention focused on him. So he gives you, he's like, okay, yeah, well, all this is in my story. You should have read it. Read my wonderful novel. Again, some people aren't comfortable going in with no backstory, and that's fine. They want to know who the character is, kind of. But, you don't want your story to already be told. As with every other problem in the world, I have a solution. There was a game that came out some years ago, and it was one of those indie games. It was one of those, kind of very specific one-shot style indie games that was designed for a very specific type of game. It was called Octane, and it was meant for a very fast and furious 2 or 3 hour session set in this crazy over-the-top post-apocalyptic wasteland. And I won't go into the entire game, but it's one of the things that I liked was when you were making your character, it basically said when you describe your character's description, you get 3 descriptors to tell people what he looks like. And you're like, what? No, I have this entire thing, explaining. And you know what? No one's going to remember it. So if you write down, wears a long trench coat, perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, scar near his left eye, you know what? You've got a picture in your head of that guy. It may not be the exact same as my picture or the guy next to you, but you've got a picture of him. And that's what it takes. So let's adapt this. When you are making character backstory, if you want to write a great novel, do whatever you have to in order to feel comfortable with the character. Okay? But when you're handing it to the GM, make sure it can be condensed into 3 bullet points. Goblins killed my family. Like, I prefer axes to swords. Like, my family is fallen royalty. Something like that. You know, and all of a sudden you've got an interesting backstory, and it's one that everyone can remember. And it's one that you can build plot hooks off of. Right? That's 3 bullet points. 3 little descriptors. It works for backstory as well as for appearance. Anyways, just my short little rant. Thank you very much.